Convolution, in my opinion, is one of the three most difficult topics within the FE electrical and computer exam specification. And the interesting thing about convolution is that since convolution is not explicitly mentioned as a line item in the exam specification, some students believe that convolution is no longer on the exam. But the fact of the matter is that convolution shows up as a line item in the FE electrical and computer exam section. Okay. And if you were to take any undergraduate engineering coursework, electrical and computer engineering coursework, you are bound to come across convolution in communications or signal processing or signals and systems. These courses sometimes have different names, but a lot of times they are very overlapping. Okay. Now, when it comes to convolution, just a quick preview. In the on-demand course, in the live training, I've presented you guys with a multi-step process in terms of dealing with convolution. So there is a graphical methodology, right, that I recommend you to make use of. And then there's an integral form. In the integral form, technically, I mean, these two are interrelated. Even when you're using this graphical approach, you still have to do integration, as you see over here in this particular problem. But the important thing to remember is that it breaks the problem down into multiple pieces. Okay, there's a stepwise approach. Step number one is to identify which one of the two functions is the simpler function. Okay, in this case, as you can see, this is a time-bounded function, a rectangular pulse. So this is simpler. This is my step number one. I'm going to use it and flip it, right? So I'm going to flip it about the axis of symmetry, which is the y-axis over here. So this gets flipped. Then you define your leading edge. The leading edge is t, and the lagging edge is t minus 2. Then you basically move the leading edge and the lagging edge ahead and move it forward, move it backward, and identify the regions of operation. So when I move the leading edge t, okay, backwards for t less than 0, there's no overlap. So the convolution output is going to be 0. Okay. Then when I move this into the function, and this is where the student is asked a very good question, very simple, straightforward question. He actually went ahead and sketched these things out, right? I don't know what exactly software the student is using, but he's like, why did you skip graph number 3 and went to graph number 4? So this is his graph number 3, and then this is his graph number 4, right? So I had a region of operation, overlap, sorry, where, let me just zone in, right? Zoom into it. Let me see if I can do a sketch. My sketches are not that great. So for t less than 0, we had this scenario where there was no overlap. And by the way, this has already been explained in a lot of detail in the on-demand. So I'm just going to focus on some of the high-level stuff that is applicable generally across the board. So this is my R1 where there's no overlap, right? So the output is 0. Okay. Now R2 is the case when the leading edge just enters into the other function. Okay. And the lagging edge has not entered yet. So this and t minus 2. So this is that the second condition, the second region, R2 is defined by the fact that my t minus 2, which is my lagging edge, is still behind 0. You see 0 over here? Okay. But my t, the leading edge, is greater than 0. So we are bounded by this condition. And the lower limit of integration, the hard limit, as I defined in the class, is established by 0. This is the fixed limit, right? Because before this, the function is off. The output is off. Okay. So this is my hard limit. This is how I come up with the lower limit of integration. And the upper limit is defined by the leading edge, however far into the function it is. Does it make sense? So region 2 is clear to everyone? Region 2 of the overlap? That the lagging edge has not entered into the function yet. Okay. So the student's question is really around 3. Now, the way that student has drawn 3 is that, okay, the function, the simpler function, the square box, the pulse, rectangle, whatever you guys want to call it, is now completely overlapping my original function. Okay, and then he's saying that now in option number 3 or region number, region number 4, it is now progressing. So the student is treating this and this differently. Whereas in reality, they are both the same. Why? The student is running into this confusion because by sketching these out, he's lost track of the leading and the lagging edge. Are you guys with me? R2 was defined by the fact that the lagging edge was below 0. R3 is defined by the fact that my lagging edge, okay, is greater than 0, greater than equal to 0. Okay. Now, how much greater than 0? It is irrelevant because when you look at this function x of t, it goes on to infinity. Does it make sense, guys? So where exactly I am, okay, in terms of this sliding function, it now is dependent on just t minus 2, the lagging edge, and the leading edge, t minus 2 and t. So 3 and 4 are basically the same. Does that make sense? Because in both 3 and 4, there is a total overlap between the simpler function and the exponential function. And the only way we can tell where we are is dependent on the value of t and t minus 2. So this is not a separate region. 3 and 4 are basically the same region. Is it clear? Because when you look at it from the standpoint of leading edge and lagging edge, you'll be able to define the regions of overlap perfectly. But if you take an ad hoc approach, a wishy-washy approach, then you will be confused. Clear? All right. Let us take a look at another one. So this was my response to the student. That's because the leading and lagging edge, 2 and 3 have same overload relationship. The leading edge is within the exponential curve and the lagging edge is below. Region of overlap only changes when we get into region number 4 and the lagging edge crosses over 0. So even 2 and 3, so what I'm saying is that even 2 and 3 will have that momentary instantaneous overlap between them, in the sense that you can say that 3 and 2 are similar and 3 and 4 are similar. 3 and 2 are similar when this sliding function actually just slides perfectly over at 0, right? Because from this point onwards, that's when I'm defining region number 3 in here. Okay. And essentially, I don't need a separate 3. So 3 is just capturing an instant when the two functions are overlapping at 0. Okay. And 0 is sort of that transitionary point. If you're below 0, you're in 2. If you're above 0 or equal to 0, you are basically in 3, right? So it's redundant to define this separately because this is like a small slice in point, which is already covered between 2 and 3 in my explanation. Okay. All right. Question number 2, and this is again coming from study guide. This is from 3rd edition 8.4b. Why are we evaluating? So in this case, both are infinite functions, exponential functions. Okay, why are we evaluating t less than 0 and the integral from 0 to infinite, and should be infinity? Both traces are non-zero for t greater than t is equal to 0. Exclamation mark. Very surprised. Are you guys following the question? The student is like, why did you even care about this? Right? Why did you care about this? I cared about it because it mattered. Both functions are exponentials. You could have flipped either one of them. So I ended up flipping this one because then everything is on the positive axis, right? Now, the interesting thing about this, guys, is that when you flip this function, imagine I flip this function and this is how it is looking like. Correct? Now, the fact of the matter is that for t less than 0, even if we were to drag it out, the fact is that its tail continues to infinity. It will if I were to drag this out over here, right, there will be some overlap. Let me show you this here with this portion. If I drag it out even further, over here, the tail is still going to continue, right? And then this portion is going to overlap. Can you guys see? Okay. The overlap exists from 0 to infinity. And that's how the limits of integration are defined. But the product of the two functions is non-zero, even when we drag this further and further, backwards and backwards. Does it make sense? That's why we cannot ignore it. Because in this case, even when you drag the beginning of one function behind 0, they will still be overlapped due to infinite decaying exponentials, unlike finite square or triangle. So in the previous case, since we had a rectangle pulse, when we drag that out, there was no overlap. But in this case, there will still be overlap. Correct? Makes sense? And the other region of operation is, one is when the t, this portion is less than 0, and the other is when it is greater than 0. So let me show you how those two regions of operations are different. And we did discuss it in the in the live program. I think we had another problem that was similar to this. So this is different, right? This is t greater than 0, because now we are overlapping in the positive direction. Okay. So it's because of these reasons that convolution is challenging. There's definitely no shortcut to it. The only thing that is always going to work is a systematic approach. Correct? Systematic approach that we learned in the on-demand, using the concept of leading edge, lagging edge, using the concept of defining the regions, okay, region 1, region 2, region 3, and so on, setting the limits of integration, and then carrying out the integration properly. So it's a multi-step process. In most cases, if you're supposed to do a full-blown convolution, it's not a 3-minute problem, right? So, but knowing the basics is going to help you solve these problems much more comfortably. And the graphical approach does work very well for both continuous time convolution and discrete time. And as I mentioned, discrete time convolution is even much more easier. You know, that sliding mechanism that I showed you in the course, it is quite helpful and easy. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. On a weekly basis, I'm creating content for FE electrical and PE power exam preparation. I also discuss topics related to electrical engineering with a focus on power systems engineering. If you'd like to learn more about my FE electrical and PE power exam preparation programs, please visit my website, studyforfe.com.